What is going on, my dudes? So, I've gotten some messages lately, and they're all related to people who want to ride these super sport class motorcycles. So a lot of you are new to super sport motorcycles. You might be coming off of naked motorcycles, uprights, but you want to get into these super sport, ultra sexy, fast, great sounding motorcycles, and you're wondering, how do you transition to these motorcycles? So in this video, in this episode, I'm going to talk to you guys about that and share with you my experience. Now, I want to throw a disclaimer out there. I'm just a single individual, and my experiences are going to be different from someone else's. I don't claim myself to be an expert, and I don't claim myself to know everything. However, these are my experiences and my opinions. As someone who has been there, done that, I think that my experiences could potentially help you out if you use it in a manner where it's appropriate for you. So with that being said, in this video, I want to talk to you guys about how to transition to super sport motorcycles, mainly the 600 class bike, because this happens to be one of the most popular classes of bikes to start out with for beginners. But I might disagree with starting with this bike as a beginner if you're new to motorcycling, or if this is going to be your first bike. And this is the reason why I want to help you transition from someone who doesn't know anything about motorcycles, or is just starting out and wanting to purchase your first motorcycle, and eventually transition onto this, to eventually riding some of the crazy things that I've ridden in my entire motorcycle riding career, such as these big, huge Ducati liter bikes with 200 plus horsepower. And all these things are to come in this episode. So let's get going. Enough talking. Let's get on with the show. Oh yeah. The Kawasaki brand of motorcycles and the Japanese line of motorcycles are all new to me. Believe it or not, I started riding my motorcycle in September. No, not in September. I started my YouTube channel in September. I started riding motorcycles in July, I believe, of 2019. So I think it's been about a year now. Yeah, it's been about a year. So I completely understand why you would want to ride a 600 class bike such as this amazing Kawasaki 636 that I'm riding right now. It is one of two bikes that I really love the most. You have this one, which is the Kawasaki's ZX6. It's a 636cc power plant, and it produces somewhere around 130 horsepower. And then you have my other favorite bike, which is the Yamaha YZF R6. And that bike is a 599cc, producing somewhere around 115, 120 horsepower, depending on the model year that you purchase. And I've been eyeing these motorcycles for a very, very long time. And as you know, on my channel, I ride a lot of these big, huge liter bikes, mainly the Ducati ones. And I've gone all the way up to the most powerful Ducati there currently exists, which is the V4R. Well, now they have the new Superleggera, so I got to get my hands on that bad boy, but it's not too far off from the V4R. But that bike has 234 horsepower with the full exhaust that I rode, and I maxed that baby out, so that was a whole lot of fun. But how do you get to that level? Like, how do you get to a level where you're comfortably riding these big liter bikes, or, you know, not even a liter bike, but these super sports on the street? Because, believe it or not, these have so much power. It does 0 to 60 in just a little over 3 seconds, and it'll get you to 100 in about 5.5 seconds if you twist your wrist fast enough and appropriately. That's a lot of power for a beginner. Oh man, this bike sounds so good. I can understand why you want to ride these bikes, because man, it is such a visceral sound. It tingles up my spine into my booty. Alright, so now I think this is a natural segue into some storytelling, because I want to tell you guys how I started in my journey, because it's going to be probably important for you to hear. I can tell you guys a million and one ways to get to this level, but it's better if I tell you how I did it. So I started my motorcycle journey by learning how to ride a motorcycle in my parking lot, believe it or not. I watched some YouTube videos, and before that I went to a dealership and I bought my KTM RC390. It was a 2017 model. So I didn't touch the motorcycle for a couple of weeks, but then I watched some videos and I learned how to ride a motorcycle from watching a YouTube video, which is probably a bad idea because I dropped the motorcycle a few times in my parking lot, and I could have avoided that. And I think I hurt myself as well. I didn't have the proper riding gear on, thinking that, oh, I'm just in my parking lot, no big deal. So long story short, I decided to sign up for the MSF course, and I took an MSF course, and then I went to get my M1 license, and the rest is history. Following the M1 license, 1 week later, I went to SoCal Supermoto. Here in SoCal, San Diego region, there's about an hour north up, there's this track called Adams Kart Track. They do car drifting, karts, and dirt bikes and all that stuff. It's a small little track. It's perfect for people who just want to get their feet wet and track on the track for the first time. So after I went to Adams Kart Track and took SoCal Supermoto, I felt a lot more comfortable because they put you on bikes that are pretty beat up, and there's a combination of dirt and road. So you're basically taking a course half of the day, and then actually I would say a little bit more than a quarter of the day you're taking a sit-down course, and then 3/4 of the day you're pretty much on the track hauling ass. So after I was done with SoCal Supermoto, I became more comfortable riding a motorcycle, and 1 week after getting my motorcycle license, when I went there, I felt like I can pretty much take on the road, but I was wrong. I was wrong because riding a motorcycle on the track with no cars coming, all that kind of stuff, it did not apply as well to the streets. So when I got back home, I went to my first bike night, and let me tell you, it was the most stressful thing I ever did, because I was alone for the first time riding my motorcycles. I didn't have any friends who could ride with me, and I didn't know anyone. I'm just a brand new rider. I literally rode my motorcycles from my house to Cycle Gear and did my first bike night, and getting there and coming back was the biggest accomplishment I ever did. I felt so good doing it, and it was one of the best things I ever did. But with my first motorcycle, I got smart and I put crotch protectors on the bike, and I ended up dropping it a few times, because you eventually will. And so this brings me to the conclusion that regardless of how you start, you have to have a bike that is used. You have to buy a bike that you're not afraid to drop, because eventually you will drop the bike. And hopefully not. You know, hopefully your chances are a lot lower, but eventually you will hurt yourself. And it's best practice to get a motorcycle like mine that I started out with. I started out with the RC390. It's a 373cc, 41 or 42 horsepower motorcycle. Full wet weight on that motorcycle is about 360 pounds, 365 pounds. An ideal weight, an ideal size motorcycle for someone who's just starting out, and very light, very nimble enough to take on the track and thrash around. And that was my entire idea. I love speed, as you already know. If you're a fan of my channel, you know that I love speed. I love the thrill. I don't ride a motorcycle to commute with. I don't go back and forth to work. I ride a motorcycle for fun. I ride it for the thrill. I ride it for the excitement. And I ride it for the high of just being free. You know, the freedom is number one for me. When I ride a motorcycle, it makes me feel true. It makes me feel real. It gives me all these emotions and sensations that I don't get with anything else. And this is why I love motorcycling, and this is why I think everyone should do it once in their life, if not for an entire lifetime. But you got to start out correctly. There are a lot of people who start out buying these motorcycles for the first time. They start doing dumb things because power is addictive, right? So you start out with big aggressive power like the 600 class bikes or the big leader bikes, and it becomes addicting to you. You never ever want to meet your heroes too soon. You want to idolize them for a little while before you meet your heroes, and that's exactly what you need to do with these 600 bikes. Idolize them, love them, watch their videos, see them from the distance, go to the dealership and sit on top of them, but don't own them for a very long time. Not until you honestly think that you're ready for it. My suggestion to you is, if you're going to start out riding motorcycles for the first time, and I think you should, is to start out riding the KTM RC390 class bikes, or something equivalent like the R3. Like, I recently reviewed an R3 on my channel. Best damn bikes you could ever buy, next to an RC390. One of the best damn bikes. Very compliant, not a lot of power, great throttle response, everything perfect for a new rider. Ride that bike for an entire year. Put 8,000, 9,000, 10,000, 12,000 miles on that bike. Ride it every single day. Don't ever stop. Ride the heck out of that motorcycle for as long as you can. If you're anywhere below 25 years old, ride the 300-400 class bikes for at least an entire year before you transition over to something else. In that span of time, if your friends have 600 class bikes, ride their bikes once in a while in a big parking lot, maybe from here to, I don't know, wherever you guys are going. Exchange bikes once in a while, but don't buy one. Idolize them from a distance, and say to yourself, when I get to a level where I'm comfortable and I've squeezed every inch out of this 300-400 class bike, that's when I'm going to purchase the 600 class bike. Make yourself earn it, because if you get it for free without earning it, you're going to get yourself in a lot of trouble. Whatever that you end up earning is whatever that you end up appreciating in life. If someone gives something to you like a book, you'll never read it. But if you go out there and spend $12.99 on Amazon, you're going to end up reading that book. And that's exactly how it is with motorcycles. If you step up to a 600 class bike, you're going to get yourself in trouble because you haven't earned the privilege to ride that bike yet. So in between that time that you have your 300-400 class bike in the full year, if you're under 25, if you're over 25, anywhere between 35, 55, whatever, it doesn't matter how old you are after 25, you could potentially bring it down to like 6 months instead of a full year, because you've obviously had tons of experience on the road with cars. So if you have a good understanding of driving and the laws of the road, and little things here and there that you can only learn through experience and wisdom, then you can cut that time down in half. But if you're under 25, you're still a fetus and you got a lot to learn. Sorry for saying that, but it is what it is. It's the truth, and I'm only looking out for you. That's why I'm telling you this. So in between that time, between day number 1 and month number 6 or 12, depending on your age, take as many courses as you can. The foundational courses are probably the most important things that you can do. Once in a while, maybe once or twice a month, go to the parking lot and rehearse those foundational things that you learn in the foundational courses, and get yourself pretty much comfortable with riding a motorcycle. Ride the motorcycle fast, ride the motorcycle slow, varying your speed all the time. Take it to the track as many times as you can if you're able to, if you can afford it. Get yourself the proper gear, because if you don't get yourself the proper gear, then you're not going to have the comfort level and the confidence to ride a motorcycle. You're always going to be afraid that you're going to fall, and eventually you will. But if you can have the proper attire in your gear, you'll be a much better rider in the end. As an example, my friend Max with the my friend Max with the R3, he had 2 accidents back to back in 1 week, but he didn't hurt himself because he bought the proper attire, and I helped him pick out what's good. And after he bought that, the brunt of the accidents were taken by the attire that he wore, and he was very thankful that he bought all that stuff, which was a pretty penny, but it saved him in the end. And insurance eventually paid him for the attire, which was good. So it's a win-win for all parties involved. Unfortunately for Max, he bought his Gixxer way too fast, so he got in one accident with the R3, and he was like, all right, now that I got into this accident with the R3 and it's banged up, choice number 2, oh, I got another bike, let's go with the Gixxer. He gets into another accident with the Gixxer because he didn't do what I'm telling you. So I don't want you to make the mistake Max has made. I want you to start from the ground up doing things the proper way, the more responsible way, because if you do it the more responsible, grown-up way, instead of letting your ego and your heart make the decision for you. The heart is weak, you know. You see something, your emotions take over, and you're like, oh, I want that badly. As soon as your emotions take over, it doesn't allow you to make critical decisions. Critical decisions save you on the road. Emotions get you in trouble. So I suggest that you use critical thinking instead of your emotions when you're making purchasing decisions for your motorcycle, or your decisions when you're riding a motorcycle on the street. Always be calculated everywhere you go, anything you do, and who you hang out with, who you spend time with. Make sure they're always calculated. And that's a totally different subject, by the way, but I thought I'd throw that in there. I'm kind of like freestyling right now. You know, like how some rappers freestyle? I'm just freestyling. Anything comes out right now. It may or may not make the cut. After you've ridden for an entire 6 months or a year, I think at that point you need to ask yourself some seriously legit questions. How many track days have I done? 1 or 0? You should have done at least 1 track day. How many courses have I taken? 1 or 0? How many miles have I ridden? Has it been less than 1,000, 2,000 miles? I'm not sure if you're ready to ride a motorcycle this fast at 1,000, 2,000, even 3,000 miles. My suggestion to you is, in that 6 months to 1 year, you should be riding a minimum of 6,000 miles to 12,000 miles. If you have the time, make sure you're riding every single day. If you don't have the time, make sure it's at least 3-4 times a week. You want to ride for long durations, long periods of time. You want to put those miles on the bike. Every mile is experience. Every single mile. The amount of time that you had the bike doesn't account for experience. Mileage accounts for experience. So make sure you put the mileage on your bike. Make sure your experience level continues to go up. And take some notes at the same time. Once a week or maybe twice a month. Take some notes about what you've learned about riding. But overall, I think if you do all these things that I'm mentioning, I think it should prepare you for a motorcycle like this. Because now let's talk about the 600 class motorcycles and why these motorcycles are freaking badass and everybody should be riding them. The 600 class motorcycles, they have anywhere north of 120 horsepower, 110, 120 horsepower. They have 50 foot-pounds of torque. That is a serious amount of power and torque. They go in excess of 150 miles an hour and above. Like the R6 goes way above 150, and this bike does somewhere around 150, I think, 150, 160. They're plenty fun. They're very exciting. They're very sexy. Gorgeous bikes. They get plenty of attention. A lot of street credit, respect. Everything that you could imagine these bikes get. I get it. I get it. I get why you want it. I get it why everybody wants it. It's pure excitement. It's pure exhilaration. But my boy, you got to work your way up to it, man. You got to admire the beauty before you have it. No one gets anything in this life for free. And if you do, you're not going to appreciate it as much as earning it. My suggestion is for you to earn it, because these bikes are so worth it. You start out on this bike and you're under 25, you're going to get yourself in trouble hanging out with the wrong people, and what's going to happen is that you're going to get distasteful of riding a motorcycle, and your family and your friends might discourage you from ever riding again. But if you start out correctly and you make a name for yourself as someone who's responsible and someone who's not going to get into an accident and be a squid on the street, then you know what? You can probably enjoy this hobby for the rest of your life without anyone saying that I told you so. So these are my suggestions for you. Once again, I am not a know-it-all. I am not an expert. I am not a guru. This is just one man's opinion. You can take it or leave it. It is just what I think could potentially work for you. And if you want, you can take other people's suggestions and of course form your own. I don't know all the answers, but this is all I know, and this is what I think works. And I think this is the most responsible and safest way that I would do it if I were you. This is from 1 year's worth of experience and 15,000 miles of riding motorcycles and about 25 motorcycles in the span of 1 year. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you like watching these kinds of videos, and I want to create more of them. So if you like this video and you like this sort of content, let me know in the comments description. if you have any other ideas on the kind of videos that you want me to make that are similar to this. I want more motorcyclists on the road. I think this is a fantastic hobby, and I think everyone should be on a motorcycle. And I think doing it responsibly would keep more people riding motorcycles for the rest of their lives if they do it in a responsible manner. And that's basically it, my boys. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I will see you on the next one. Ciao for now.
Don't shoot.